Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the ERM program's first event of the fall semester, our featured alumni series. If you have any questions throughout this event, please feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Before we start, I'd just like to bring to mind some of our upcoming events for the fall semester. ERM's weekend seminars have already started and run through the entirety of the semester, Friday mornings and Saturday mornings. I'd like to also highlight two events this semester, two author spotlights and book launches for our program director, Sim Siegel, and one of our full-time faculty and ERM leadership members, Rich Loria. At this point, I would like to hand it over to our moderator for today's panel, Rende, and I hope you enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Fall 2025 Featured Alumni panel. I am Rende. A bit about myself, I'm a third semester student in the ERM program, graduating this December. And before my master's, I did my undergrad degree in economics, and then I worked in corporate finance for a few years. And I'm a very active student here in Columbia. I am the president of a student club called Columbia Investment and Finance Society. And also I am serving as a teaching assistant for the financial risk management course this semester. And now I'll be your moderator today. So I'd like to start by thanking our panelists, Samia, Ankit, and Anita, and of course, all of you in the audience for being here today. To kick off our discussion, I'd like to ask our panelists to kindly introduce yourself, share a quick interview of your background, and tell us a bit about your current role. We can start with Samia.
Thank you, AJ. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. My name is Samia. I just graduated from the ERM program this May and started my new role at Goldman Sachs as an analyst in the exotics world. Prior to Columbia, I did my undergraduate studies in France in corporate investment banking, and I've had a little bit of internship experiences in the US and France. My first experience was in Wall Street in a brokerage firm as a credit sales summer analyst, and then I did another global summer internship at BNP Paribas in New York, and that was in global markets. And most recently, I had a summer internship at TD Bank, and that was in derivatives trading. I am also an associate faculty at Columbia in the ERM program for the capstone course. So if you guys are taking it, it's a great course. It's really a course where you apply everything that you learned throughout the 3 semesters. Yeah, that's all about me.
Thank you, Samia. We can continue with Ankit.
Hey, thanks, AJ. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning from wherever you're joining. My name is Ankit. So I graduated in fall 2020 during the peak COVID time. It was an interesting experience graduating at that time. So currently I'm working as an associate in the fraud risk division at Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation. I've been with the firm for close to 2 years now, a little over 2 years now. And prior to that, I was working with Morgan Stanley in very similar role in fraud risk right after graduating from Columbia. I also worked in some other risk management capacities as a risk consultant prior to Columbia and as well as a risk consultant in an oil and gas firm. Interestingly, I also run the ERM Alumni Club. So I welcome you all to, join the club and network with your peers. And we have a very fast growing alumni club as well across the world. So pretty much very excited to welcome you all on that as well. Pretty much that's it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Ankit. And Anita.
Thank you very much for inviting me here to be a panelist today. And it's a real pleasure to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. So as you heard, my name is Anita Kabuga. I graduated from the Columbia University Masters in Science Enterprise Risk Management program in 2018. I also hold, my undergraduate is in Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. And I also hold the Certified Public Accountant and Certified Information Systems Audit qualifications. So professionally, I started my career in the private sector. I began my career with Deloitte, and later I joined KPMG. I was providing audit and risk management services to clients. At the time, I was based in Kenya, so most of my private sector clients were in Kenya, and later I did a 2-year secondment in Deloitte, UK, London. After that, I joined the United Nations. I'm now working with the United Nations, where I've spent more than a decade in various roles. Most recently, I served as the Chief of Risk and Compliance for UN Peacekeeping Mission in Africa. And currently, I'm based in the UN headquarters here in New York, where I'm responsible for coordinating implementation of risk management across the Secretariat. I'm really passionate about risk management, and I'm really excited to be part of these conversations today. And I really hope we all have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for all the good self-introduction. And I'd like to start by asking our most popular question is, which courses from the ERM curriculum did you find most valuable in your current role? Anita, we can start with you.
Okay, thank you, AJ. So I would truly say enjoyed all the courses in the program, but the one that really stood out for me was strategic risk management. And the reason for that is that strategic risk management is directly relevant to the work I'm doing at the UN, at the United Nations. So as you may all know, within the UN, we operate in very complex environment. We are navigating so many kind of risk, geopolitical challenges, humanitarian crises, security issues, because we are based in a lot of conflict zones. So strategic risk management taught me to just, not just look at the day-to-day operational issues, but start connecting the dots in seeing how the different types of risks interconnect, whether it's external risks or internal risks, and how they could impact the mandates of the UN as a whole. So strategic risk management has helped me be able to link risk to strategy, and really shift my perspective from just, narrowly looking at the operations and just doing simple risk assessments on the operations we are doing, but seeing how all the risks we are facing as the United Nations tie into the bigger strategic picture. So that was really useful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Yes.
For my favorite course, I think I agree with Anita. All of them are great. I think they all kind of complete each other for us to be ready at the end of the program to work in risk management or in other industries. But one that really stood out to me is strategic communications for risk professionals. I think that course is just great. A lot of us, I mean, a lot of students might be thinking, oh, it's a course that I need to take. I have to take it. Well, it's actually a great course. And it's something that's gonna stay with you for life. It's concepts that will help you in your career, in your personal life. You learn about negotiating prices, you learn about presenting some ideas. So it really is beneficial for professional and personal life. But I think, so when I started the course, I really thought that we were learning like concepts that we can apply in, as I mentioned, everyday life, but especially for early careers like me. I started my new role as an analyst, and I'm thinking all of those concepts that I learned, I can apply them right now to translate some ideas that I might have or opinions or whatnot into actionable messages to managers, managing directors, etc. So it's really important to understand that this course is not just something that you're taking and you have to take, but it's something that's going to help you actually present yourself in a professional manner when you're speaking to different people in the organization. And that's, I think, very valuable and is right now very valuable in my job.
Perfect.
Yeah, for me, I think operational risk management was one of the most interesting courses. And I'm saying that because I came from a very quantitative background. So that was definitely not a natural choice for me. However, I felt that that was a very interesting area only because a lot of new emerging risks are non-financial risks. And, that's fairly common in the industry as well. And I feel that all the work I've been doing so far is very heavily influenced by my learnings from the course that I took. And I'm constantly trying to find ways to perfectly align my learnings and how to quantify those non-financial risks. So the operational risk management course really gave me the pedigree to learn about the framework, whether it's various conceptual aspects of it regarding the framework, risk appetite, and RCSA and stuff like that. But we are also constantly working on quantifying it using different stress analysis methods, scenario design. And I feel that a lot of firms, financial services firms, are trying their best to justify how they can better quantify these risks to meet the regulatory standards at the time being, because a lot of importance is being given to the stressed capital that the firm needs to quantify for non-financial risk as well. So I feel that it's kind of a responsibility being part of this space that we do a job better by borrowing those concepts learned at Columbia and then applying them and really taking the spearhead of creating something that could be used industry-wide.
Perfect. Thank you all. All are great answers you give. And my next question is for our new students here, actually. That is there anything you wish you had known at the start of the program that would have helped you later on?
Yeah, I can answer this question since I just graduated. I think something that I wish I knew before, when you start as a student in the ERM program, there's a lot of information coming at you. Like you have courses, you have clubs, you have everything. And sometimes we forget about how networking is really important in this program. And especially when I started, I wasn't aware of this, but SPS and the ERM program specifically started introducing like different initiatives, like the mentorship program with professors and lecturers, and also another mentorship program with alums and current students. So I think all of these are great ways to network and really take advantage of every single information you can get from these experienced professionals, even if they have just 1 year, one more year of experience than you. I think it's very valuable. But yeah, it's networking is really essential, not specifically to get a job, but these people in the program can really help you if you're going through interviews or if you're still undecided on which direction you want to take job related. I think, yeah, it's something that I wasn't aware of, but I started discovering semester after semester.
No, yeah, I agree. That's a great answer. Thank you, Samia. And I also would like to ask, since completing the ERM program, how has your professional profile changed and how have you used your new skills to stand out in the industry?
Thank you, AJ. I'm going to answer this one. So basically, as I said before, I completed my program in 2018. At the time, I was doing finance for the UN. I had joined the UN as a finance officer, so it was mostly more of a finance, my professional scene as more finance-oriented, audit-oriented. But then I always had an interest in risk management because that's what I had been doing before with the private sector at KPMG and Deloitte. So of course, when I saw the program at Columbia, I quickly jumped in because I knew it would be a chance to get into an area I really, really was interested in. Also at the time, the UN was going through a reform and they were introducing enterprise risk management. So I knew the division was going to be formed pretty soon. So I wanted to be part of it when it got formed. And actually the new department was formed in 2019. So I joined the program in 2017 and I was an evening class student. So as you can imagine, it was quite tough. I was combining my everyday work and then I'd come to class in the evening. And I think it was really, really interesting. And I was able to graduate in June 2018. So after that, I approached my management and told them that now I have the qualifications. So having that credential from Colombia helped me to get a transition into risk management. And so now my profile has become a bit more specialized. Apart from being a finance and audit specialist, I'm also now seen as a risk management expert. As you can imagine, when ERM was formed in the UN, it was still very basic, very mature. So I've been part of the journey to, implement the policy, provide the guidance, start coordinating with the entities, because here in the Secretariat, we're dealing with over 60 entities across the world, both in Africa, in Asia, in South America, in basically all around the world. We have entities of the UN everywhere. So here at the Secretariat, we are responsible for implementing the ERM for them. So I have been able to apply the skills I have learned at Columbia in providing best practices, helping them coordinating, collaborating with the risk management focal points across the various entities that we had to work with in building the capacity. And because this risk management concept was very new for a lot of people, just trying to explain what ERM is all about and the value add that they can be able to obtain from implementing risk management. So leading conversations, creating buy-in, and supporting leadership in making better informed decisions. So I would say it's been a real turnaround, and I'm enjoying every journey of this. Thank you.
No, that's a great story, Anita, and it's really relevant, especially thinking in the UN context. Thank you for that. And my next question, this one is everybody is curious about. How did you secure your current role? And were there specific strategies that helped you secure your position? We can start with you, Ankit.
Sure. So I secured this current role by a combination of my network as well as just being active on LinkedIn. So as I've mentioned before, we have a very active, growing ERM alumni network. So I already had my colleagues and my classmates whom I studied with who were working for the current firm where I work. And I always was in touch with them to know if there are any good opportunities that are getting in the market, as well as one of my professors who taught me operational risk management was just joining this bank right when I started my career at Morgan Stanley. So I waited for a couple of years, kickstarted my career here. And then when the right time came, I just reached out to the professor, and the professor was kind enough to allow me to interview for the firm. Not to again mention that I already had various connections in that firm, and almost all the connections were from the ERM program. So it really paid off well, that all the connections I built, and whether with the professors or with my colleagues, that really helped me a lot. Um, Going back to your second part of the question was with respect to how I really got into this role, specifically when I was working as a student. And I think because I graduated during the COVID time, it was really important for me to be very flexible because the market was really difficult. I had some prior experience, but again, I was looking for something that would align better with my experience. But at the same time, I could leverage the skills I learned at Columbia. I was very open with the kind of roles that were available in the market right now. I never had any experience in fraud risk. The fraud risk that I learned at grad school was the only fraud risk I knew, which was part of the operational risk management. But I think it really opened avenues for me to explore what are some of the best ways I can utilize my skills and try to match my skills to specific opportunities that were open at that time. And I think it really worked well for me in that case.
No, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, for me, it was just applying. I just applied. I think the strategy and where the ERM program is really important is how to deal with interviews. I think the ERM program really prepares well its students to manage interviews. As I mentioned, the strategic communications class is an essential, is key in there. I think that really helped me in how to present my experience, and then obviously communicate with the interviewers, etc. And yeah, also the second strategy would be the interviewers are always curious to know about the program. I mean, most of the interviews that I had with different companies, obviously they were really curious to know what they're teaching us at Columbia, what is the enterprise risk management. And I think it's important to really understand and be able to explain what we do. Because once you explain it, once you explain the value-based course and you explain capstone, how you work on a real case, a real company, and you try to dissect it and try to understand their strategy and solve their problems, once you really explain all of that, explain all of the skills that you acquired, could be communication skills, modeling skills, or just how you mastered, I would say, different kind of risks. Once you explain that, I think interviewers are just impressed. I think that's the strategy that really helped me. And those are just skills that I learned during the program. So yeah, I would say just explain everything that you do. Try to talk about different skills that you learned, different things, how you can apply what you're doing in class to their company, to that specific team or department. I think that would also really work, especially in bigger departments where right now risk management is really essential. I know a lot of these banks, the big banks, are really trying to recruit more and more people who have this experience and knowledge of risk management, especially enterprise risk management, that's very holistic, with a holistic view of and perspective of managing risk. Yeah.
No, so true. I agree. I agree with all. Something similar question, but it's more about your time in Colombia. What support services, such as career advising in CDL, mentoring, or panel discussions, did you use in your time in Colombia? And are there any services you wish that had been available back then?
Sure, I can answer that. So I would say there are a lot of services I used from CDL. For example, I think the earliest services I remember was getting resume advice. So my advisor used to work with me on getting my resume better based on the skills I owned, the kind of roles I was looking for. That definitely kind of kick-started the whole mentorship for me, where I was ensuring that my resume really lands in the hands of the right recruiter. On top of that, CDL had many connections within the industry. I was definitely privileged to interview for certain firms through the referrals that my advisor provided for me. Conducted mock interviews for many cases just to polish my interview skills, as well as, when I was working as an ERM intern, I collaborated with CDL to ensure that we build industry-wide relationships. And I recall having, a lot of conversations with various recruiters from different firms to bring those firms to CDL so that they can look for right talent within the ERM program. And just because of this project that I was working on, I also got a lot of benefit by making direct connections with those recruiters with various firms. And I'm sure that most of those firms are still connected with CDL, where ERM students must be attending their job fairs or very specific firm-based events as well. To answer your second question, the only thing I would, I wish that would have been there was the ERM network, but I mean, we created it. So definitely the future classes can benefit from that. But yeah, I think it's only growing, and very happy that there are so many of us who are working in risk management space in the industry now.
No, that is so true, Ankit. I agree with you. I think CDL and other tools Columbia is offering new coming students, they should make the most out of it, and also they should connect with the network. And we just mentioned networking can be crucial, especially in the field of risk management. My next question is, can any of you share an example where your network directly led to a professional opportunity?
Thank you, Angie. I'm going to answer that. So for me, over the years, I've learned that networking is very critical in career. I mean, I've learned that I may have all the technical skills and abilities, but if I don't do any networking, the career is going to stagnate. So one example that can come to mind is during my time with the UN. As I mentioned before, my job at the moment entails collaborating with the risk management focal points, the risk management owners, and just basically colleagues from different entities in facilitating the implementation of ERM. So my recent role was as the Chief of Risk and Compliance in a peacekeeping mission in Africa. So that opportunity basically came about through my collaboration efforts. And what happened was that it was a secondment. So when the opportunity came up, some of the colleagues that I had worked with in some of those peacekeeping missions floated my name, and I was invited to apply for the role because at the end of the day, I still had to compete with other people. But you see, even as much as you're competing for a role, people need to know who it is they're going to be working with. So by building those professional relationships, when you apply for a position, people understand and know who you are, because people need to work with good people with good attitude. Who said Zig Ziglar? Attitude, not aptitude, takes you to the highest attitude, right? Altitude, I mean. So professional connections are very important so that people can know that in addition to being an expert in what you do, you're also a good colleague to work with, you're a team player, you're polite and you understand the work. So that connection that I have built over the years is what afforded me the opportunity to get that position in I'm not going to mention which peacekeeping mission, but it was a very interesting role that I was able to work in a very complex, and I was able to see what the people I advise are actually facing on the ground, because sitting here in headquarters, we provide policy and strategy to the entities that are really on the ground doing the actual operational work. But that opportunity that was afforded through my collaborations gave me the opportunity to be on the ground and see the peacekeeping efforts and be really in that very complex environment where the actual risks that we are managing as the UN were materializing. So that was a very interesting opportunity.
Yeah, it is an interesting story. Thank you, Anita. And my next question is for Samia. Samia, you work with exotics at Goldman Sachs. And how do you find that your background in risk management benefits you in that environment, and where it is fast-paced and products are complex?
Yeah, I think exotics are very challenging and very complex, but something that I learned in the program, as I mentioned, as a new analyst, there are a lot of skills that are required. You need to know how to communicate, but most of my job is really technical. And exotics, how they work is basically they're a combination of different financial products. And where the program really helped me is first how to model. I think in Capstone, it was a really good way to kind of really apply the concepts that we learned for a specific company, and that helps me right now as I use a lot of Excel, VBA, etc., to facilitate my tasks. But I think what also helps is how this program taught us to basically break down complex and difficult concepts into more simpler concepts. And I think this is really important because exotics are complex, but once you know how to break down the different terms, the different specifics of that product, you will know what the problem is and fix it. And also you will know how to deal with that fast-paced environment. I know something that I also learned at Columbia is sometimes you might not have enough time to complete projects, but you have to be efficient. I think efficiency is also really important in my job, as it's important to deliver a certain project by a certain deadline, but also it needs to be quality work. You need to deliver a quality deliverable. And this, we also learned it at Columbia. We learned how really to manage our time in also a fast-paced environment. We had a lot of courses, a lot of deliverables, and yeah, I think the main idea is to really be able to be efficient, communicate well, add value to the team, come up with ideas, even though you're a junior. I think ideas are really valuable, especially in such complex world where basically any input that can help the team into simplifying different workflows, etc., can really help. Yeah, and just I think also knowing how to model is something that's great to know, and that the program really is making available for all students. I think webinars are a great tool and a great way to discover if you obviously are not mastering those modeling tools, etc., and modeling languages. I think it's a great way to dive into it, and that can help you obviously when you're applying to jobs that are a little bit more technical. Yeah.
Yes, these are such essential skills. I'm so lucky to learn them from our program here in Columbia. Thank you, Samia. And my next question is for Ankit. So, Ankit, with AI and advanced analytics becoming more common in fraud detection, how do you see these tools are changing the way fraud risk is managed?
Sure, thanks. I think that's a great question. I feel that fraud risk is again an evolving space, along with so many changes happening in analytics or AI. Just to give an example, we are constantly having conversations with different vendors. They present their proof of concepts to us just to provide very advanced methods of identification and prevention of fraud. A lot of new techniques are coming in the market. Just I think a couple of months ago, I was at a conference and they were literally showing us a live example of how a voice cloning can be done. And it is something as simple as someone getting access to your voice sample when, for example, when you record a personal message on your voicemail, and that can be sampled and deep faked and then can be used as a voice identification method. Now, like my personal advice to everyone, stop recording your personal messages on your voicemail because it can be very easily used. But again, a lot of these things are becoming new tools for the fraudsters to exploit the vulnerable customers. And that's where we are constantly playing a cat and a mouse game, where we are trying to identify in what ways the fraudsters are trying to exploit the most vulnerable sections and controls in a financial institution. And then we are looking into how we enhance the automated capabilities of fraud identification. For example, these days we work with our first lines and review various individual vectors that contribute to an anomalous behavior for the customers. It could be as minute as their lock-in behaviors or transaction patterns. And we have to be on top of the game because the environment in which the banks are being attacked are constantly evolving. A lot of those stuff are also on darknet. So I feel that implementing more technology, and that's the direction in which most financial institutions are getting towards, is a way in which fraud risk also needs to evolve. More automation needs to be in place. Anomaly detection needs to be brought, and any new risks that may arise because of using automated tools need to be brought in scope of fraud risk. Yep.
No, perfect. Thank you, Ankit. And my next question is for Anita. And I think it will especially resonate with those of you in the audience from non-financial sectors. So Anita, in the UN context, risk is not just financial, but strategic and especially operational. How do you apply ERM frameworks in such a broad and diverse environment like UN?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a great question as well. So yes, in the UN, we have diverse risks. I mean, we have as I said before, we have operational, reputational, security, political, geopolitical risks. And then also the UN operates under different mandates. We have very different mandates. So you have special political missions, you have regional commissions, peacekeeping missions, and yet sitting here in the Secretariat, we're trying to implement enterprise risk management across the organization that is consistent. So one tool we have used, and that was really setting the baseline for doing the risk management, was developing an organizational-wide policy framework and methodology so that we can have a common risk language, so that the reporting and the risk assessments were done in a consistent way, and that the communication, the risk areas that were being communicated to headquarters from all these different entities with different mandates were using a common terminology, So we created a risk catalog with common risk nomenclature, which you may have learned by now, so that we're able to identify, assess, and manage the risks in a common way across the organization. So that was critical in ensuring that we had a common baseline, common risk reporting methods that we could use across the organization. Another thing that was very critical was capacity development, capacity building. So upon development of all these common tools, my department, we spent a lot of time speaking with the different entities and facilitating sessions on what is risk management, so that everybody could be on board and sharing the policies and the strategies that could be used for doing the risk assessments. Then also we had focal points. As I said before, we identified focal points for each of these entities that could be the ones to do the local coordination of the risk management. One key thing is communication. Of course, there cannot be risk management without communication, and it has to be clear. Simplicity was key so that everybody would understand what is risk management, like explain it in a layman terms so that it's not jargon and everybody could understand what do you mean by this enterprise risk management. Yeah, so that's one thing we did. And then having, consistent dialogue with the focal points to make sure that the risk assessments we're doing in the entities was done in a consistent way, and it was aligned to the policy framework. And also very key, making sure that the risk assessments were not done as a tick box exercise, but were being applied to the strategies so that they could identify ERM as a strategic management tool that was value add and that was contributing to the decisions of senior management. So that is what we have been doing. Of course, we are not there yet in terms of maturity, but I would say that from the beginning, we have progressed a bit from basic, and now we are a bit intermediate. It's still a work in progress, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. These are great insights, especially for our students who are planning on non-financial careers in risk management. Thank you. And we have a little time left, so we can move into our Q&A section. Please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section if you haven't already, and we will take as many as we can within our limited time. So, first question coming from the Q&A is, how can a current ERM student differentiate themselves in a competitive job market?
I mean, I can take that. So I think the answer is definitely in the name of the program. Most of the students who are graduating from ERM, they are ERM grads. So this is itself very differentiating. The most important thing is that it is expected out of you that your risk management fundamentals are spot on. And what I'm realizing, when I have a lot of offline conversations with people who are in their early careers and are trying to look for entry-level positions, is that a lot of entry-level positions these days also require some background knowledge or some experience. So if you don't have an experience, what really comes handy is your fundamentals, what's desired in the job. Now, if it's a risk management job, it's obvious that, if it's financial risk or non-financial risk, if you have taken those right courses at Columbia, you can always differentiate yourself, because always remember, you're not in the market alone. A lot of people are competing with you who do not have the risk management pedigree, whether they're finance majors or quantitative finance majors. And this is one of the main differentiating factor for you, because you have your fundamentals right. So I would say, just heavily leverage your risk management pedigree. That definitely works. And that's what a lot of hiring managers are looking for as well. Because at the end of the day, they want the new employee to get onboarded as soon as possible and get the job done.
Maybe I can add on to what Ankit said. In addition to differentiating yourself with the pedigree of Columbia, I think building onto the networks of the alumni is very important, because you're in a job market with so many people. So if you build into the networks and build your professional relationships that we spoke about, that would come in very handy, because when you apply for the job, at least the people in the network already know about you. They know who you are. So that could help differentiate you as well.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, that when you start the program, sometimes you might not be aware of like other things, other opportunities that are offered at the university level. I know, Ajay, you mentioned that you started the club. I think for recruiters, that's amazing. It shows that you have initiative, that you have the leadership, and you have many other skills that not everyone has, not all the candidates have, and I think that's really valuable. Also, you have, other than SPS, you have the university level, you have opportunities, ambassador opportunities, counsel opportunities. So all of these, I think, they differentiate you, and they show that you're also fun to work with. I think something that I noticed in interviews is managers and associates, etc., they are looking for someone just fun to work with, just someone who goes and plays football in the weekend or plays tennis or golf. I think all of these are great ways or great things to show during an interview, that can, set you apart from other candidates.
Perfect. Thank you all. Moving on to the next question from the audience is, what's one lesson or skill you learned in your current role that you wish you had known as a student?
And I can go again first.
Yeah, Ankit.
I think I learned it the hard way, especially, being an introvert. I understood very early that being in risk management space, especially, I'm taking with an assumption that most risk management roles are in second line of defense, even though in larger financial institutions these days, they have something called as a first line risk as well. But I think it's really important to articulate better, because no matter how technically sound you are, no matter how good you do your job, you have to understand that the stakeholders that you're dealing with are in first line and they are running their shop, right? Whether they are running a trading desk or they are running an operations department or any other functions within the bank. That's their primary responsibility. So you have to make them aware what you're trying to convey and what's the importance of that. What's the implication if that, I would say, framework is not followed. And once you make that realization by having a proper explanation and articulating your argument better, it makes things very easy because only then you can build a better relationship with them and they can provide you with the data. Risk management heavily dependent on the data that the first line provides. And slowly, because of building these relationships, I feel you can actually run the risk management function on an autopilot and make sure that the first line is really responding to your request and helping you out.
Yes, I think I'll also add on to what Ankit said and just build on that. I've learned that risk management is more like change management. It's about influence. So as much as technical skills are important, the ability to influence, to create buy-in is very critical because at the end of the day, many people see risk management as an additional job for them in addition to their desk job. So they need to be able to understand what's the value of risk management for them to really embrace it and not just treat it as audit. There's a confusion in the industry that risk management is audit. So people need to understand, as Ankit said, that our risk management is not the third line of defense, which is oversight, but is really the second line of defense to help management in the first line of defense be able to achieve their objectives and be able to get their job done in a better way by anticipating any threats or any loop or any impediments ahead of them from achieving what they need to do. So in addition to learning the technical skills, I think the course on communication and influence, and also putting that in practice, influencing, to be able to influence the people you're working with, to come on your side and understand why they're doing what they're being told to do. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not working in risk management at all, but I think a good skill to have in risk management or in general, and from what I see in the risk management department at Goldman is to really, as Anita mentioned, to have that confidence and to be able to express yourself in a certain way, to buy that buy-in that Anita mentioned. I think that really is necessary because otherwise people will not, like people in trading don't necessarily understand the risk concepts or they have their own way of managing risk and they don't really want to hear from someone who does not come to the table with a confidence and a good knowledge of risk management so they can explain it to the trading side or the sales side or to the strat side. I think that's a very good skill.
Oh, perfect. Thank you all for your answers. And I have one more question from the audience. Someone says, I was wondering how many applications did you submit and what is the rate that you got an interview? Did you secure the job by mainly networking or a referral or just applying? It's a bit technical question, but they would love to hear your experiences.
I can take that one. I honestly, I think networking is a great way to work on interviews and get insights from the people working at a company. In my experience, I know a lot of people secured jobs via networking. For me, it was simply applying online and then obviously interviews, and then interviews I would leverage the network inside where I would ask for how is this company aligning with what I want, where I want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. I think, yeah, I think applying is a good starting point, and then networking can really help in really working on your pitch, on how you're going to introduce yourself, how well you know the company, does it fit with your perspective and your goals in your career. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with Samia's thoughts. In fact, what I've seen in the last few years, and I've spoken with a lot of candidates from ERM program, almost everyone who, made an effort to connect with somebody in the industry who are working in the similar field, I've literally seen most of them getting jobs because they made an effort. So on the flip side, yes, you may get selected if you're applying online and going through the application process. Absolutely. But on the flip side, it doesn't really hurt to network, understand what the expectations of the recruiters are or the managers are, and just to be visible because nobody is going to remember you if you're not going to make an effort. So I think everyone appreciates the effort that you make, show interest in that specific field of risk management, and then just build those connections. And I've seen, so many success stories for, happening when people are taking the extra effort, attending maybe some kind of networking events, or even just having a one-on-one conversation with someone uh, they want to talk to and understand more about their work.
Yeah, to add on to what Ankit and Samia have said, I think it's also important to know and identify what kind of industry you want to work with, because we have different industries. You have the private sector, you have the public sector, you have financial risk management, you have insurance risk management. So I think as much as you really don't know at the beginning, possibly as a student, I think it's good to have an idea of what sector you want to work with and do research about it. And then also find out what opportunities are coming from those sectors. And when they come, just apply. Already by being a student at Columbia University, you have an edge because that's one of the best programs that are being offered currently on risk management. So, for example, in the space of the public sector, the United Nations in specific, I would say if you're interested in the UN, just apply. We do have opportunities for internships. It would be a good way to find out, to dip your legs and see, is that an area you're interested in? Or even private sector, I'm sure they have internships. So apply for the internships, and then you can get an idea of what industry you want to work with. I think that's very important.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Anita. Thank you all for your answers. I'm checking the questions coming from the students. One person wants to ask, actually, Anita covered this for a few times, but what are some examples to find a less quantitative direction position in risk area? So what are some examples that are not so quantitative, but still staying in risk area? Would anyone, one of you would be enough maybe to take this question?
Anita, you want to go first because you've already touched on this point before, maybe.
If I understand correctly, they want to know what examples of non-quantitative risks?
So yes, non-financial careers in risk, yes.
Or non-financial careers in risk. Okay, so for example, within the public sector organizations, and I will say maybe the United Nations and several other public sector, because World Bank and IMF deals mostly with financial risk, but some of the public sector organizations do deal with more of strategic and operational risks because the kind of work that is done by these organizations. So those are areas that could really have that. I know financial risk is insurance, banks, and those kind of organizations. But if you're interested in like strategic, operational, public sector is a good starting point, I would say.
I'll just add one more point here. There are a lot of technology firms that are also hiring in this space. I know for a fact, the large tech firms like Amazon, Google, TikTok, OpenAI, you name it, They all have positions that are geared towards non-financial risk as well. And I think it's a fairly public knowledge that most of the financial institutions have now almost a requirement, at least the larger ones have a requirement to have a non-financial risk division because the Federal Reserve requires it. And then there are a lot of financial fintech startups that also are opening up doors for these kind of roles. I recall having a conversations with someone in a crypto exchange platform. They had positions open. So I would say there are a lot of opportunities in this space if someone is really interested to explore.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for all these answers. I think we are wrapping it up right now because we go through almost all the questions in the Q&A session that I received as well. So to wrap things out, I want to sincerely thank you to all of our panelists and for sharing your experience, and thank you to audience for your participation. It was a wonderful event, and thank you so much, and hope to see you again around here.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ajay.
Take care.